Hi everybody, welcome to Fitness and Sports with Praveen. Today we have Sudantha Soysa, who is a famous name in the Sri Lanka tennis world. The man has certainly done and is continuing his human service for the sport in our motherland. Here are some of Sudantha's playing accolades. He played Junior Wimbledon in 1986. Sudantha was the Sri Lanka Junior National Tennis Champion in the under 10, under 12, under 14 and under 16 age groups. He was the fourth member in the 1986 Davis Cup team for the tie against Pakistan. He was the national mixed doubles champion in 1992, and Sudantha played number 1 for Pierce College, California, USA. As a tennis coach, Sudantha is an ITF certified coach and an ITF certified tutor. He has coached the Sri Lanka side for the SAF Games, Federation Cup and Davis Cup. He was the Sri Lanka Davis Cup coach for 2020. Sudantha now owns and runs Master Sports Sri Lanka, which is a high-performance tennis academy in the country. Sudantha has been in charge of many national teams, which include the Junior Davis Cup and World Junior teams. I am very happy to have Sudantha here on the show to talk about the potential of tennis in Sri Lanka. So we welcome Sudantha to the show. Sudantha, how do you spot the potential in a child to be a good tennis player, and how would you groom the child till he or she is ready to tour?
We start kids at all kinds of ages, so probably around 4 to 6 years old. I would say 6. We would get them on a court and we'll see how their eye-hand coordination is, so by using balls and the swing of the racket, and we will judge how good their eye-hand coordination is and the racket speed is. So from there, that's the first most important thing, to have the eye-hand coordination, and then it's about how well you move, the agility side, all that. So most of the time, you don't have all these essences together, but we put them together, and so that's why we always say do cross sports, do different sports before you come and start playing tennis, like a game like soccer or basketball, because this develops your eye-hand coordination, your movement. What we do is then we teach the skill, the stroke, and then we move them on to the different balls. Now in the modern game we have different colored balls, which make it easier for them to start early, and then we structure a program for them. That's how we do it.
The highest ranking international Sri Lankan tennis player was Arjun Fernando, who was ranked in the 200s, and that was in the 80s. We have not had any one tennis player reach that rank since. In your opinion, what would your suggestion be to groom a future Sri Lankan tennis star who can be competitive in the pro circuit and possibly in the Grand Slams as well? Even if this takes a generation or more, what structure would you lay down?
Yes, Arjun was definitely and is definitely a huge role model for past players and present players and future generations. He was definitely the highest ranked pro tennis player that Sri Lanka has ever made. But to correct you a little bit, we've had other players who have been quite highly ranked. Those are Leeni Veerasurya, who was ranked 268 in the world in the professional women's circuit, and at that time I actually traveled with her, and I was working and coaching with her, coaching her on the tour. Then there was another lady by the name of Manisha Pereira, who did very well. And at the present time, we had in the present generation, we've had Harshana Godamana, who's been playing at a very high level, but now has given up tennis and is coaching full-time in the United States. So this question, the answer to the question is how do we structure a program? So one thing, the easiest part of it is to get the structure. Secondly, the bigger issue is how do we work around the stumbling blocks of actually the issues around getting it done. And thirdly, we have issues with, obviously we have a lot of issues with finances and finding the proper infrastructure to develop these players. So I think when we separate this into different parts, the mentality of the education system coming first. Let me explain that to you. So most parents in Sri Lanka and this part of the world prioritize education. So what happens is at a certain age, these kids stop playing tennis and they start studying, and that in that we lose a lot of top tennis players, potentially good tennis players, because they say, okay, I think I'm going to be a doctor or I'm going to be a lawyer. So what happens is these kids get used to that, and then they get involved in O levels and A levels, and then that drops, then they drop out of the game. Also, in other countries around the world where tennis has developed, and where the top players come from, especially in Europe, they have something called homeschool. So what these kids do is they go to school, they go to play tennis in the mornings, they come back and they do homeschool, and they go back to tennis in the afternoon. So they get 2 sessions. So what happens in Sri Lanka is with the education system, they go to school in the morning and they are out in the afternoons about 2:33, and they only have an afternoon session to work with. So it's very difficult to really involve the whole broad-based plan, where they get the physical side, and then they get the tennis in, because if you do the physical side, then there's not enough time for the tennis. Then also finance, in terms of having enough money to travel and train, to buy the right equipment, and also to travel abroad to play these tournaments, and also to get some training once in a while in these big academies where they have some of the best players playing out of. Finance is a big problem. Also, I feel that in Sri Lanka, the mindset, because of education coming first, the mindset to be a professional sportsman or a tennis player is also lacking, because that is not what kids are brought up. They are brought up to most of the time to think, okay, I'm playing for the fun of it, and at some time I'm going to stop this and I'm going to study. Also, the other problem is we find, because there's not a lot of money in the sport in terms of where the tournaments are concerned, kids and potential top players who can be playing the game for longer stop playing tennis at a certain time because there is no financial reward for them, and they don't see any reason in continuing to play the game without spending their own money. So we have to find a way to keep these kids playing the game longer. Also, in Sri Lanka, we lack international level training centers, and that definitely, without that, we'll have it difficult to make players at that level. Also, because we are from an island nation, we have the lack of depth in competition. So that, of course, we can offset by going to India and playing tournaments, because India is our neighbor. And when it comes to the requirement of what the association does, most developed tennis nations have associations which manage tennis and regulate it, right? But in developing countries like Sri Lanka and like ours, the association has a far more difficult job. They have the added responsibility to manage development programs and foster underprivileged children, so what happens is they have to run these coaching programs, and the major issue here is they lack the funding and the finance to be able to run these programs, because most of these private academies cost quite a lot of money, and then what happens is you are segregating the underprivileged, and they don't get that exposure that they need. I know this personally because I've worked very closely with the association, with national teams. It's not that they lack the vision, it's that they lack the finance to be able to run these programs, and the budgets that are needed to run long-term programs to yield international level players. I also know personally right now the association is battling to try to keep their premises because there's a problem with the lease. So I think it's very important, that the government and the sports ministry gets involved and find sponsors for the association to be able to run these programs. I think the Honourable Minister, Mr. Rama Rajapaksa, being a sportsman himself, understands himself, and hopefully will make a difference in this in his time as and tenure as a sports minister. After all, the most valuable thing is our youth in this country, and I think it's okay to invest money on them. I think in terms of like the question where you asked what kind of plan there should be, I think there should be a 4-year plan to develop Asian level under 14 players to compete at the World Juniors. So 4 years from maybe 8, 9, 10 to 14s, where these kids can play in a competition called World Juniors. Right now we are at the bottom of this Asia group, and I think we can in 4 years produce some really good players who are competitive, and a 6-year plan for under 16 players to compete in Junior Davis Cup and Junior Fed Cup, and 8 years to 10-year program where players can hopefully start playing in the junior Grand Slams. That means you have to be ranked in the top 100 in the world. So when you reach that junior level and you reach that junior Grand Slam level, and if you can get 3 to 4 players playing in junior Grand Slams in the next 8 to 10 years, I think the next step to being a professional player is very, very easy. By that time it becomes very automatic, and they start training, they get sponsors, and because you have so many players playing at this level, you will also get more juniors playing the game, and it just gets kick-started and it gets rolling after that.
Describe your Masters Sports Academy and how you are grooming the future of Sri Lanka tennis.
Yes, so Masters Tennis Academy is probably the first tennis academy in Sri Lanka, and now it's the only tennis academy with its own private facility. So we have a 4-court floodlit facility, and we have 2 foreign coaches, and we have 2 local coaches working with me at the moment. So because of the floodlights and because it's a private academy, it's the only academy where the academy is open from 6 o'clock in the morning till 8:30 in the evening. So that gives us the opportunity to work harder and have better programs running. When I started Masters Tennis Academy, it was at Rajagiri, and now it's located further down Rajagiri in a place called Budgama Road. And the plan for Masters Tennis Academy now is to try to grow. I'm trying to get another property, and also I'm just in the midst of trying to finally decide if we are going to start a high performance center, and we've just located the land around there. So where Masters Tennis Academy is concerned, I was going to actually stop coaching tennis and go on to do other things, but I found that that the workload was too tough on me, and working 7 days a week and working with so many players, it was really burning me out. But I found a nice balance because we started another business, and it was not all finance for me, the tennis anymore. So I decided to go to work 4 days, and I really got much more motivated. So I work 4 days now, and I work with a lot of top juniors, up and coming juniors. And also Masters Tennis Academy now sponsors a few players, 2 players. One is the youngest women's champion in the modern era. Her name is Angelika Kurera. She's 15 years old now, and she's already won 2 junior ITF tournaments in Sri Lanka. And she's also sponsored by a company, and right now she's on a break because of her O-levels. He was from an underprivileged home, but very talented, very hardworking. Along with Peran Sons, we brought him in to St. Thomas's Mount, where he's a student now, and he is one of the best male junior players coming up. He's just won the Clay Court Nationals under 16. With that, we have a lot of other players who are playing with us, and to answer your question, Praveen, I think it's not that we don't have a lot of talent and we don't have enough talent. We have a lot of talent. It's just that we need to focus and try to get them onto some programs where they can develop. So Masters Tennis Academy is going to be running for another 10 years at least, I hope, and out of that we'll be able to produce at least 1 or 2 Grand Slam juniors.
Sudantha, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. It's been great having you on the show, and I wish you the very best in grooming the future tennis stars of Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudantha, for your time. I wish you the very best in grooming the future stars of Sri Lanka tennis. Thank you very much for tuning in to Fitness and Sports with Praveen. We'll see you on the next episode. Till next time, stay safe everybody, take care and God bless.